Town that's home to so many rich and famous people. You've heard of its mansions and million-dollar estates, but did you know there's a wrong side of the tracks too? Another one of the secrets of Beverly Hills coming up. Tonight, Ralph Story continues his special report on the secrets of Beverly Hills with the revelation that there are really two Beverly Hills, the right side and the wrong side.
I love Beverly Hills.
I think Beverly Hills is a great spot.
I don't always say I live in Beverly Hills.
Well, I usually say West LA.
First, Beverly Hills is two separate places.
Beverly Hills is really two cities.
I've raised my kids here, even though on the south side of Beverly Hills, and all my friends live on the north side of Beverly Hills, but
I think that 2 years from now, everybody I know, or most everybody I know who doesn't live north of the tracks, is going to live someplace else.
You see, like every other little town, there's a right and wrong side of the tracks. These old abandoned Southern Pacific rails are the schizophrenia of Beverly Hills, and the tour buses show only one side.
It has a very affluent section north of the tracks, and there are still railroad tracks in Beverly Hills. And it has a population consisting of people with children in school, homeowners, senior citizens, which comprise half of the population. They're south of the tracks.
The center of life in South Beverly Hills is Roxbury Park. There's a bridge table, a gin table, a pinochle table, and even a few jokers.
I'm about ready to kick in the bucket anyway.
No, you're not. I can tell. Listen, see, you're one of those guys who's going to outlast all of us, you know. I know you.
He's got a dog 92 years old, too.
But some of these folks got a bad deal.
Why? Because a lot of people here can't afford it to live here, but they're forced to live here. There's no place to move.
I think what is happening, the elderly are being driven out of their community, away from their homes. Most of the seniors have lived here all of their lives. They have reared their children here, their grandchildren, and they were all left with nice little nest eggs.
If you would ask somebody for a price, or brokers, for the price of south of Wilshire, they'll tell you that they are above $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. And some of the houses there are up to $1 million.
Yeah.
So they're not boondocks anymore.
I know a lot of people 2-3 years ago, they paid very little rent, but now they are out, you know, the condominium sickness.
There are 8,200 apartments in Beverly Hills, but rent control stops at $600 a month. So single parents trying to put children through the Beverly Hills schools are simply being forced out. About 500 people are on welfare, and this house is for sale for $285,000.
No, I don't like it because I think every city has to have a mix of population. And if this becomes a city of just millionaires, it'll die.
Of course, not everyone south of the tracks is suffering, but not everyone north of the tracks is rich.
no. Comfortable, yes. I'm not hurting.
Yeah, we're living comfortably.
I don't believe all of these people are millionaires, but I would certainly say they're wealthy.
So let's just say the wealthy, comfortable, not hurting people live north of the tracks. Their lifestyle and well-manicured mansions are familiar to anyone who's taken a movie star tour. But there's a secret behind all of that beauty.
We have the alleys so that nobody has to put their garbage out on the curb, except in a very few areas. The alleys serve as a buffer between neighbors. They serve as a place for the police to go on patrol.
41 miles of alleys for deliveries, utilities, and anything generally unsightly, like rats.
We have a major rat problem here.
I imagine there are 1 or 2 rats running around the hills of Beverly Hills,
Wealthy
right?
rats.
Wealthy, fat rats.
The rats seem to enjoy the palm trees. They love to sit up in the trees there. And they're well fed. There's lots of good garbage that is outside once in a while, and this is a problem that's been here for at least 25, 30 years that I know of. I'm sure it existed before.
Yes, the rats and everyone else enjoy the Beverly Hills trees, 28,000 at last count, and more planted every day. You can even tell when you're in Beverly Hills by the trees. That's Los Angeles on the right, Beverly Hills on the left. Developer Burton Green planned and planted the original Beverly that way. You can't quite see his house in this old photo. In fact, you can't quite see his house today because of the trees. Gene Klein, who owns the San Diego Chargers, lives here. Price, $12 million.
2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 14 million people are paying for homes here. Prices are being driven up, mostly by foreigners.
Do you resent that?
No, I think it's fabulous. We are getting so much culture here.
Famous realtor Elaine Young, who drives a white Scepter, is taking a local looky-loo around to see some comfortable homes. But how do you finance one?
When you buy a house like this, they're generally paying cash. Once you hit $1 million to $3 million, people are paying cash for the big houses. This is the highest form and sophisticated speculation. This home is $3.5 million. He designed it, redid the entire house, gutted it, and it shows off his decor and his style.
Will Rogers was once the mayor of Beverly Hills, and he's famous for, among other things, for saying, you got to buy land because they ain't making any more of it.
We are running out of land. We are running out of houses. That's what makes the prices go up.
Barry Dean builds homes in what they call the Beverly Hills Post Office Zone. It's really Los Angeles, but your mail gets a Beverly Hills postmark for those who want status at a discount.
What's this cheaper house behind us worth?
This cheaper house behind us here, in fact, was just sold for $950,000.
Well, if you're really hurting, you can still have a Beverly Hills address, and for only $40. A box at the post office. Well, I guess you can really blame Will Rogers for the price of Beverly Hills real estate. He used to put little items about the town in his column, and then he bought up land, and when the town got famous, he sold the land, made a bundle, and moved to Santa Monica. I wouldn't say he was hurting, he was wealthy. Tomorrow we're going to tell you some more secrets of the Beverly Hills game, including how to play the game for status.